So look,
Yeah.
the point of this is that I'm trying to be fairly active in the HighLevel community, both as an affiliate and also running my own SaaS company. I come from a software background of more than 20 years, and I absolutely.
Oh, no way! I didn't know that. That's super cool.
Yeah, well, it's been one of those journeys where I went from working in the client server types of environments, back on Visual Fox Pro, and then in
Visual Fox Pro. Now you're
right. Remember that thing?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's actually from an engineering point of view. I think it's actually it was pretty advanced for its time.
It was. I remember I worked at one of my first jobs was at a mail house, and they used Visual Fox Pro for all their lists management, merges, and all that.
Crazy, yeah. Well, actually, it started in sort of like transport and logistics, ended up in big finance and et cetera. But
exactly.
Then, sort of Salesforce.com kind of exploded, and I watched a few Dreamforce kind of keynotes, and I was hooked on the idea of kind of, what being able to deliver software as a service kind of meant in terms of, operational expenditure versus capital expenditure and shared resources and computing and that type of thing. So that was super exciting. So I stayed in technology forever. Did a couple of individual contributor sales roles, then into revenue officer roles, and then kind of growth officer roles or whatever. And then started my own agency, and then stumbled upon your company and your software, and have never been happier. So I'm trying to spread the word. Yeah, trying to spread the word.
I love it.
Yeah. So look, I wanted to set this up because, selfishly, right, I just wanted to ask you a whole bunch of questions about what you're doing at HighLevel. And, because so much of what HighLevel does is, I suppose, and this is kind of leading into probably one of my first questions, was it very deliberate to make it a platform? And, when I think about a platform definition, I think it was Bill Gates or whoever said, that if it's a true platform, then the economic output of your community is greater than the money that you would otherwise make in sort of the micro version of it, right? So HighLevel would never make more than, the resellers and the affiliates, like their economic output is more. So was that super intentional?
Well, I mean, that's you kind of loaded the question. So, I mean, it was absolutely intentional to try to find a way to help our customers make money. I didn't know that definition of platform, but it's funny because without even knowing it, that's exactly where we ended up. And so, I go around sort of telling everyone on my team, everyone I meet in the community, like, I want to be a $10 billion company. And I really mean that to be, we're doing $1 billion in revenue and our customers are doing $9 billion, right?
Right.
And so and I think the way we actually came to this is kind of more interesting in some sense, where on one hand, I wish I was smart enough to know that quote and be like, I know, let's start a platform, right? Like, I don't know, maybe there's somebody out there that does that. But for us, it was sort of like, it was more organic, and it was sort of like, gosh, we really want to help small businesses. Right? So how do you do that? Well, I know, let's whip up a bunch of software because that's the hammer we know how to swing, right? So we did that. And then I had like 1,000 small businesses I was already working with. So like, hey, let's just sell it to them, like, ta-da, there's a start of a business, right? But what we realized early on was like, gosh, we would give them tools that we felt like were basic and essential at the same time, and see them sort of say, yeah, we agree with that. Here's our money. Oh, you know what? Never mind. Just kidding. We cancel because we don't have that time to implement these things. Now, and just like anybody who like sort of says that they dislike the stuff I'm working on, I sort of take offense to it. And so I sort of remember saying to some people like, are you dumb or are you stupid? Which one is it? Because it's not that this software is bad. It's that you suck. And they were like, yes, actually, Shaun, we admit it. We are lame. We know we need this stuff. We know it's important and critical to our business, but we just don't have the time to do it. Like we just don't have the hours in the day. And I was like, crap. So then it was sort of like, we were at a crossroads, and I would remember thinking, God, this is it. We're done. We're gonna lose. And I literally got a call from a marketing agency who said, hey, we have a co-customer in common. Can we, I'd love to see what you're doing for them. Right. And I remember thinking, God, why in the world am I gonna get on the phone with you, idiot? You don't even pay me any money. Like, what am I doing here? But he was a super nice dude. So I was like, all right, let's do that. And what was amazing about that was he totally understood what we were trying to do. He bought it for he was a big agency, he bought it for all 80 of his clients on the phone with us. And he kept coming back and back and back and back. So 2 weeks later, he wasn't canceling. He was giving us more ideas. He was helping us work through the product. And then when he really felt like he could adopt it for all of his customers, he was like, hey, can I share this with 13 of my best friends? And they were all marketing agencies. And one of those guys said, hey, would you come to San Diego and come to our mastermind? And really, it just sort of took off from there. And what we eventually, or rather I eventually realized, because I'm kind of a slow learner, as you can tell, I was like, wait a second, if you really want to help these small businesses, maybe the better thing to do is help the agencies. And what we've realized over time is actually every great success story out there that's a small business or even a medium business almost always has an agency in some form or fashion as part of their story. They just don't write it down. They just don't advertise. They don't put it on the sign outside, like this amazing business built by Bob, the agency owner, right? Like they never do that. And so really that's, I think, how we came to that realization. So long ago, we stopped selling to anybody except agencies because we realized that, we want to go deeper with the tools. Like when I look out in the SMB space today, if I look at people I would say sort of like are honestly doing a good job, they're doing it by providing the tiniest of solutions, which have no hope of ever getting bigger or more complicated, even if that would benefit their customer, because the customer doesn't have an in-house person to learn the tech and to apply the tech. So long story short, yes, we are a platform. Yes, we want our people to earn more than us, but we got there in kind of a funny, weird way.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you talk about what you see, how people are doing well. Where do you sit from a 30,000 feet view? Because you seem to be the impression that I think, that I certainly get, and I think it's probably just a result of what you're posting in the communities, is always about release, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm an engineer, so I'm kind of
exactly.
I'm a software nerd, right?
So how commercially involved are you in talking to other agency owners about business rather than functionality? Or
all the time, because I'm actually a business nerd too. I'm not, but I'm not a good marketer, right? But I understand business very well, but I come at it from a technology perspective. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're making nuts and bolts or mattresses or something, I have no idea. But if you're making software, I know a lot, and not just from the software production side, but from the SaaS sort of software owner side. I've listened to every podcast I could ever find on SaaS, and so I would say I talk to agency owners all the time. But I'm not asking them about the latest in SEO techniques or something. I'm asking them about how they're scaling their businesses, how they're connecting with customers, how they're driving up their average revenue per customer, and those sorts of things. Because fundamentally core actually to what we're doing is really trying to get people to adopt a different business model. Because when I came into this, I remember talking to agency owners. We first started with lead gen guys, right? And the lead gen guys would be like, yeah, so I do Facebook ads for dentists. I'm like, wow, that sounds exciting. That sounds cool. Your leads, customers, woo, bingo. How's that all working out? It sucks. It's terrible. I lose clients every 2 seconds and I'm on this hamster wheel. And I'm like, that sounds odd, because I had built a business almost exclusively off AdWords. So I understand the power of lead generation through ads. I totally get that. I believe in it. It works. So to think that a bunch of agencies couldn't whip together some business, I just couldn't get it. I just didn't get it. So, and then I would get on the phone with some people and they'd say, oh, I never lose a client and all that. And what I learned over time is those people tend to be local agencies. So, and they tend to be selling through trust. So it's they still get pissed off customers, but the difference is they get on their car, they drive down there, and a box of donuts comes with them. And now the person's like, oh, okay, I feel good. I feel like I can trust you. Those people never lose a customer, actually. Local agencies, bar none, lowest churn rates. But they have a share of wallet issue, which is they're like, hey, you should buy SEO. And the person's like, I already bought marketing. And they're like, no. You don't realize you have a website and you have paid ads, but you see SEO is different. And then they're like, no, I bought marketing. They can't get beyond it, right? But in both cases, it turns out, and I stole this from our customers, so I have to just be honest about this. It turns out the better answer is be a software company. at the end of the day, more or less. Now, that doesn't mean don't do what you're currently doing or change radically what you're doing. It simply means that in addition to what you're currently doing, add software, because every small business that you run across will buy this type of tech from someone. Why shouldn't they buy it from you, right? And so that's kind of the byline on where we're headed is, and where we've come, frankly. And it's just simple. I used to talk to people who are struggling and not making any money and on the hamster wheel, and the answer to freeing them has been what we call SaaS Mode, but basically reselling HighLevel every month, white label, very important, white label under their brand for the services and the features that matter to their clients. I mean, creating this beautiful recurring revenue base that really pairs nicely, quite frankly, with services.
Yeah, I think one of the best presentations I watched, and I can't remember how recently it was, but I think it was Chase and Mike,
Mike Cooch.
That's was it Mike? Yeah. Well, so Chase just chucked up a slide, and this was
it Mike
very
Cooch?
relevant. Pardon?
Was it Mike Cooch?
I don't think it was. I can't remember who it was.
Okay. Was it services at scale?
It was more about, it was one of your webinars on SaaS, but it was Chase doing the book.
Yeah. Chase is great at that.
So he was talking about so what I found interesting, because the unit economics, right? So looking at, for me, it's always been, I've done this a number of times in different businesses, moving to subscription revenue model from capital income, and trying to explain even to kind of seasoned business professionals that with SaaS, the unit economics look a lot different. There is usually a higher cost of acquisition, and then there's a larger delay in time to profitability, but the lifetime value goes up 10, 20, 30x, right?
Right.
And I was looking at the stats from Chase, and I think he was saying that agencies that are not on SaaS, their average churn rate is 2.5 months.
Yep.
And I think that the agencies, and this is obviously quantifiable data that you guys have.
Yeah, that's what we like about it, because we actually can see the numbers.
Yeah. And so then you've got the juxtaposition of that, which is SaaS or one of the SaaS plans. It was 10 months, right? Yep. And I think that was statistics from 2021. And I think all of the stuff that you've done and pushed out in the last 12 months, you're going to see that go even bigger, right?
Well, yeah. And the other fun part about that is you got to realize that's the average, right? So it's skewed. And this, I don't want this to sound funny, but this is sort of skewed by beginners, right?
Yeah.
This is a new model for all of us. So if I look at the people there are some people who have adopted this in a heavy way. So one of our customers will do 10 million this year off of SaaS revenue. The other do 6. Those guys have much longer, lifespans.
Yeah.
But I love that you understand. Well, I love that you use the word unit economics, because I think most people, your background really helps you in this way. And I think you have a vastly superior education to most of us to things like even know what RevOps is. But I think how you said it is perfect, right? Which is the traditional SaaS company, they have this really funny situation where it's super expensive upfront to acquire a customer, but don't worry, because over the lifetime of the customer, you're going to get it all back. But the funny part here is the sweet spot is the agency actually can sort of cross both chasms. So they walk in the door with a heavy, expensive service upfront, which really actually creates a situation where they're able to pay for that acquisition cost and call it net zero. Most of the time it's profitable, but even if it's just net zero on the deal, then all of a sudden the LTV or the recurring revenue piece just picks up. And if you think about it, the reason why this isn't done in the real world is because most software companies are just that, right? So you're like, I need a website, I need Facebook ads, I need SEO, I need this, I need that. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. We sell software, right? So what they've got to do is they've got to convince you to buy a hammer so that you can use that hammer, hopefully, to build a house, right? That's a very hard thing to do. Whereas agencies walk in the door and they say, hey, guess what? I'm going to build a house for you. And you're like, sweet, I'll take it. That's exactly what I want. And then eventually you're like, dude, this is expensive. And then they're like, oh, you know what? I'll tell you what, you can just rent the hammer. How's that sound? And they're like, great, I'll take it. And so you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Whereas the traditional SaaS company doesn't have that playbook.
Yeah. And I think that I'm going to go back and find his name in a minute, but I think it was potentially one of those big dollar guys you were just talking about. They were talking about the downsell for SaaS Mode was
Yeah.
go in with, we're a software-led services company.
Yeah.
And yes, traditional subscription, month recurring revenue needs to be utilitarian, I suppose, if that's a word. It's classified as a utility that I want to turn it off because it's like oxygen or whatever.
Correct.
So when you have economic down cycles in those businesses, you go back to the rent the hammer, which is you keep it on. And then when you're ready to spend and you got budget again, hey, I'm your services provider, spend with me again, right?
Yep, you got it, right. Yeah, you cycle in and cycle out on the services, but you never lose the customer because they're always paying you on the software.
Yeah.
So actually, interestingly enough, I don't think people really, like when you have these really good, logical conversations, what they always leave out is the fact that, it's like, they say like sort of like one person is a very logical being, but like a crowd is like, insane. Like people will do the craziest things. I think psychology is huge here. So like, I personally believe that most people want to believe that they can do it themselves. Right. So I actually don't even like that SaaS as a downsell. I think I like it as I almost like it as the initial sale. And I don't even like it as an initial direct sale. I like it out the back of a course model. In fact, there's a traditional SaaS company that I talked to, their CEO, they were acquired. They built, I think their first 10 million in revenue was like this. They'd be like, hey, I'm going to give you, there's a course on how to grow your lawn care company or whatever it is. And then you would take the course. And then in the course, they would sell you their software, right? And right there, that one little step, that's a $10 million no salesperson kind of step. And they're paying $600 a month for the course or something like that. And so all of a sudden they created this huge sort of cycle, right? But I think most people, like in their brain, they want to believe that marketing is easy. So instead of fighting people and be like, no, you're wrong, you should hire me for a lot of money to do it, you're just like, oh yeah, you're right. Pay $97 to take my course and it's going to turn you into a genius. And then you just show them how hard it really is. You upsell them into the software while you're there, and then they could stay there, in which case you're making money, or they can say, yeah, you're right. I did try this. It is hard. Help. And bam, you've just upsold them into your services. But they're selling themselves by letting them put their hand on the hot stove, get burned, versus you trying to like knock on the door and try to, pull them up to this really expensive set.
Yeah. I think the closest comparison that's super mainstream to something like that is when you invent domain expertise. So LinkedIn with Sales Navigator, they don't sell Sales Navigator, they sell social selling, which is an invention that they made. And so you can become an expert in social selling, but it leads to the technology, right?
That's smart, right? I mean, isn't that what every course creator does though? Like, I mean, I'm not a marketing guy, but I'm pretty sure like all these guys who run around with $50,000 inner circles and all this stuff, they don't really, they never say like, hey, sign up for my $50,000 inner circle. Like, that's not how it works. These guys don't exist. Because he'd be like, what? I'm not paying you 50 grand. Who the heck are you anyways, right? Aren't you supposed to be like, for $97, you can buy my course on how to become a genius? And you're like, oh, only $97 to become a genius? I'll take it. And then they upsell you. Isn't that how it all works? So it just feels to me like take that same model and take it away from courses, apply it to software, but it has the same psychological effect, which is some people are going to get to the $50,000 level. Most people won't. But who cares? You're going to get them along the way and you'll get them as far as they can go. And of the people that can pay you 50 grand, you'll eventually get most of those people because you'll have proven to them at these lower price points that you're worth it.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so I'm just looking at the screens for the questions here.
Oh, yeah. Guess 162, guess 192. Does that mean we have 192 guests? That's pretty incredible.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's some nice, I think webinar kits, it's funny. They have this kind of, there we go, 192, love you. I'm going to go to my written down questions. I'll come
fire away.
So let's just change tempo for a sec.
Yeah.
And look, I understand if you're not allowed to say because you may be keeping it for the summit or something, but how about inbound calling? Are we going to see that?
Yeah, Q4.
Yeah. We are, okay? A timeline?
Q4.
At some point in the future.
Q4.
That's it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's October, November, December. Right. So we're already running that down. Absolutely.
Nice. which brings me to, I suppose, so two-part question. So the first part is, there seemed to have been like a strategic shift away from, third-party APIs like Mailgun or third-party providers to be less dependent on third parties and have proprietary technology. So we look at like what happened with like lead connector email versus Mailgun now, right? So two-part question, is that a strategic decision to move away from third-party dependencies so that you have proprietary technology, or are you just unhappy with Mailgun?
This is the funniest thing ever, right? So what this really is I'm tired of telling people that it's going to be okay. And I think this is totally okay. So I totally think people are reasonable in their reactions here. I think this is a vestige of the past. So in order for us to accelerate development, we just sort of, we built the cars, we drove it, and we were sort of like, listen, we don't want to deal with the email thing right now. Can we get people to sign up for Mailgun? Okay, check, moving on. It's just like one less thing to do, right? But in reality, what developed over time is it becomes friction points that are unnecessary. And what started off as friction points then became, it actually got even more painful, because like Mailgun, when we first got started with them, they had a free account, which is why we liked them. And then they nixed the reply feature, so you couldn't use it if you didn't pay. So that basically then made that not very useful. And then Twilio originally was fine because you could basically sign up for an account and spam the heck out of everybody, and no one would bother to ever notice or care. And then all of a sudden they started to care, and all of the complexities around compliance just went through the roof. And so quite honestly, just to make everyone's life a lot simpler, we were just like, listen, we're going to take Mailgun, we're going to bring it in-house, and we're going to call it Lead Connector Email. We're going to take Twilio and bring it in-house and call it Lead Connector Phone System. And then the idea there was, wow, we can do a lot more now. So Mailgun got a lot cheaper, because if you're really paying for Mailgun, you're paying like, I don't know, $30 a month or something, which, and now you're going to pay like per email. So it's like point something out to like wazoo decimal places. Point being, you do the math, it's cheaper even at the 50,000 bucket they give you. And most people, word to the wise, don't necessarily use 50,000 emails. So, hey, look, you saved money either way. So that's good. On the Twilio side, we're giving it to you the same rate at the moment, although we're working on a discount, so we'll see. But all of the compliance is taken care of. So you don't have to do any of the compliance stuff. And we're putting in all kinds of protections, right? So as an agency, as you scale, you're going to run into clients that are actually bad actors. Hate to break it to you. And some of them aren't even purposely bad actors, right? They're like, oh, I didn't know buying a list on the internet of 100,000 random people and sending a text to them is bad. Really? Yeah. And you're like, come on, dude, seriously? But we're protecting you. So the idea is like, somebody comes in, they buy that list, it's their first week, they try to blast it out. We're actually going to block them from doing that. We're going to limit the number of sends. And then we're going to freeze their account. We're going to alert the agency owner and say, hey, are you cool with this? And you can still override it. Say, oh yeah, that's cool. 100,000 great people. That's a warm list. We're fine. Or you can be like, snap, I'm going to call that guy, right? And then if they do get that list out and they start getting a lot of spam complaints, either on the text side, the call side, or the email side, we'll actually start to pull their account back. So we'll like block them, we'll slow them down, we'll put like, depending on what it is, sender IDs automatically into messages, all kinds of things. And again, all of this is stuff that's hygiene that agencies should do, could do, but now it's just all automated. So the idea here was like twofold. How can we remove that friction point up front, especially, and it's in the worst possible place. I mean, as a SaaS company, it's like the worst thing. We're going to take a bunch of friction, put it right at the front, right when you're just getting started, right? It's already hard enough to learn HighLevel, but you know what? You also have to learn Mailgun and Twilio. And so now we're just going to nix all that. And so, there's that. And then, again, as things get more complicated, or deliverability management, all of that stuff, we're going to handle it for you and make it easy. So probably a longer answer than you wanted, but that's how it
No, it's good. It's good. I think, so it sounds like, we draw a conclusion. So yeah, the assumption kind of made is correct. And there's a lot of positive and good reasons why you would do that. And do you have like is there like a Twilio team that like attends like Twilio's events and figures out like all those new API?
Well, what it really is we have an enterprise contract with Twilio, and so we call, they listen, because now we represent a lot more volume than we ever did before. And I used to try to get them. I like try to in the past. I'd be like, hey, I have this list of SIDs. Can I give it to you? And can you like loop it all together and realize that's us? And they were like, no, our system doesn't work like that. So like, it was a journey, right? And we think we'll see that we can get a discount from Twilio also, and then we can pass that back to everybody like we've done on other products. And so I just see it as like one less thing you have to worry about. I feel confident now that we can do a great job for everybody to the same level they'd want to do for themselves. So like all things considered, and then I don't know, like take like countries that, let's say like New Zealand's a big deal tomorrow, and Twilio doesn't cover New Zealand. Well, we'll go out, and if that's like we're hell bent on doing it, we'll find the provider for that and we'll bring it in instead of you saying like, oh, well, we have an API. Good luck to you, and you having to deal with all of that. So I don't know. I just feel like we could do a better job for everybody.
No, it's fine. I mean, look, that's great. So many New Zealand jokes I could crack being an Australian, but I won't.
Oh, sorry, I should have teed that up for you.
That's all right.
Well, guest 162. The answer to guest 162 is yes. We will roll that out here shortly. Cool. So don't worry. Don't freak out.
See, like, I don't have to triage them anymore. Sean's just answering questions. Amazing. There we go.
Yeah.
So on international, talking about New Zealand, right? I was talking to Kelsey earlier. She mentioned that there's something planned here, but like, so
that's fancy. I didn't even know that myself.
Well, but maybe I don't know. But what is it a short to immediate term to look at internationalization? Like,
So Q1, so like Q4 themes will be like CRM, right? Yeah, is a big one because I used to say if the world needed another CRM, we wouldn't be here, but now we're here. So it's time for us to be a CRM. So you'll see a lot of this stuff like the company objects going live, inbound calling. I think it was a CRM functionality, like so there'll be a lot of stuff like integration with Google and Outlook on email and Point being thematically CRM and payments and something else. I'm sure there's other things. Anyways, that's that. And then Q1 in my mind is the start of e-com and the start of internationalization. Because from my perspective, we will have all of the core features and now we can internationalize them. Now, behind the scenes, all new products that are going out have the sort of the capacity to be internationalized. But it'll be a lot of just going back and basically, it's a lot of like string stuff. It's just like where that string is, make sure that there's a English version and a not English version, and we'll probably move by language, by GDP.
Yeah. Well, so that probably gives you like Latin America first or something.
Well, okay, yeah. So check this out. This is really interesting. I listened to another company's presentation and they pointed out something about my own country that I would probably, once they pointed it out, I was like, oh, I get that, but I would have never like thought of it that way. So Spanish will probably be number one, right? Yeah. But there are a lot of native Spanish speakers in my current home country, right? Yeah. A lot. And in fact, they were great. They showed a stat like by 2025, like 130 million people who are native Spanish speakers will be here. So I think that's awesome. And then as you pointed out, Latin America, Mexico, like all of that, and then we'll kind of roll on from there. But the nice thing is once we've got it for one language, it won't really be that big of a deal to get it for, other languages. I mean, we'll have, there's this great website where you can basically say, like, here's the English phrase. Now, everybody who speaks German, please tell me what the German version of this is. And, you get 100 people or 10 people to say it's like this, then like whoever, the common one wins. And so, it'll still probably be imperfect, but we'll get close.